The fifth match day in the Europa League is finally here, and do you know what the that means? Matchday 5 predictions. Before I get into this video, let me tell you something man to man, or man to woman if you're a woman, or man to other. Let me tell you something. If you're betting on these Europa League games, you are crazy because these are the most unpredictable games in the world. I swear, every single week, there's upsets left, right, and center. You never know what's gonna happen. The only thing that's guaranteed is that Rangers and Nice will lose because so far, they've lost every single game and they look like complete trash. But other than that, you never know what's going to happen. So hopefully in this video, my predictions are correct. And obviously, if you guys disagree with my predictions, remember to leave a comment down below telling me your predictions and I'll be sure to reply to every single comment. Like I said in my Champions League prediction video, thank you guys so much for helping me hit 5,000 subscribers. It's been absolutely crazy. And once again, if you keep enjoying the videos, remember to subscribe down below. But without further ado, let's get right into these predictions. Starting off with the first game, we have Aston Villa against Young Boys. Like I mentioned in my last video, Aston Villa started off the season very poorly, where in the Premier League, they were losing almost every single game they played, and they were on a streak for multiple games where they couldn't even score a goal. Now, coming into this game against Young Boys, Aston Villa did win their last Champions League game when Young Boys ended up losing 4-0 against PAOK, which was an embarrassing result for Young Boys. And with that being said, I can only see Aston Villa winning this game. I'm going to predict a 4-1 win for Aston Villa. Moving on to the next match, we have FC Porto against Nice. Bro, did you hear what I said in the intro? Nice are completely shit. I said that Nice are one of 2 guarantees in the Europa League that they're going to lose. Watch me say this and Nice somehow get a win, but I just don't see it happening. Porto are doing very good in the Liga Portugal this season, where in the first 11 games, they've won 10 of those games and they drew 1. They have still not gotten a loss in their domestic league, and they're scoring loads and loads of goals. In the Europa League, they don't look as good as they do domestically, but honestly, at this point, I think any team other than Rangers will probably end up beating Nice. Nice have been horrible this season, both in the Liga and in the Europa League, where in the Liga, they've lost more games than they've won. And in the Europa League, they're 4 for 4 on losses. I got Porto winning 3-0. The next game we got is Fenerbahce against Fenerbahce. Oh my gosh.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
The next game we got is Fenerbahce against Fenerbahce. Damn. That was hard to say. Fenerbahce have clearly been the better of both of these teams, as currently they sit in 3rd place, having gotten 3 wins and 1 draw from their first 4 games, which is very impressive for them that they still haven't gotten a loss. Now, in this game, Fenerbahce also have the home advantage, and I do think that since Tedesco has taken over and they sacked Jose Mourinho, I do think they look like a better team. And at the current moment, in their last 5 matches, they haven't lost any of them, and they've been winning majority of their games. With that being said, if this was earlier in the season, I could definitely see Fenerbahce getting a win. But currently, I do think Fenerbahce are on better form, so I'm going to back them to win this game 2-1. The next game we got is Feyenoord against Celtic. Honestly, both of these teams have been a little bit disappointing so far in this Europa League, as they both currently sit in the elimination zone, which is very poor from both of them. Going into this Europa League, you would think that both of these teams are definitely top 10 teams, but Celtic, we've seen them domestically and in the Europa League, and they don't look that good. And Feyenoord, on the other hand, they just got overtaken by PSV, as they currently sit 2nd place in the Eredivisie, and in the Europa League, they're having a very poor start. With that being said, I think both teams are definitely underperforming, and for that reason, I'm going to predict a draw in this game. I think it's going to be 2-2. The next game we got is Lille against Dinamo Zagreb. Dinamo Zagreb are the most confusing team and hardest team to predict so far in this Europa League, where at the start of the Europa League, they were on fire. They beat Fenerbahce 3-1, they beat Maccabi Tel Aviv 3-1, but then they drew against Malmo, which was a very poor result, and then they lost 3-0 at home against Celta Vigo. But to be honest, Lille haven't been the best this season. In the last match day, they ended up losing 1-0 against Red Star Belgrade, and in the Ligue 1, they lost 2-0 against Nice, who I already mentioned how poorly they're playing this season. But I do think with the home advantage, Lille will get a slight victory over Dinamo Zagreb. I'm going to see that Lille win this game 1-0. The next game we got is Ludogorets against Celta Vigo. Celta Vigo had an incredibly poor start to the season, where they ended up drawing like 6 or 7 games in a row, which was absolutely crazy. But recently, they have definitely turned it around and they do look much better. Ludogorets haven't been as good as I expected them to be in this Europa League so far, as currently they sit in 30th place, and I just don't think they're playing that well. I think their squad is better than this, but at the current moment, it doesn't look like they're going to qualify for the knockout stages. And with that being said, I'm going to predict Celta Vigo to win this game 1-0 away from home. Moving on to the next game, we have PAOK against Brann. PAOK have scored 18 goals in their last 5 matches. They are scoring multiple goals in every single game they play. And like I already mentioned, in their last Europa League game, they beat Young Boys 4-0, which was a very, very impressive home victory. At home, PAOK are looking like a very impressive team, and that's why they currently sit in the top 10. And with that being said, I don't think Brann have what it takes. So I'm going to predict PAOK to win this game 2-0. The next game we got is an absolute banger between Roma and FC Midtjylland. This is going to be a tough game because one team has been the best team in the Europa League so far. And it's not Roma, it's FC Midtjylland. Currently, they sit in first place and they're the only team to have won 4 games out of 4. They look fantastic, and especially in the midfield, I think they have an underrated team and a very strong midfield that could take them to finishing first place in the league phase. Realistically, I could see Midtjylland getting a slight 1-0 victory, but with the home advantage, I think it's only right to back Roma, so I'm going to predict that Roma win this game 2-1. Moving on to the next game, we have Viktoria Plzen against Freiburg. I think both of these teams have been very surprising so far in this Europa League, when Viktoria Plzen currently sit in the top 10 and they still haven't lost the game yet, but Freiburg currently sit in second place, getting 3 wins and 1 draw. Now, don't look at Freiburg in their last game because they lost 6-2 against Bayern Munich. That was an embarrassing game, but other than that game, they've been pretty good so far this season. I have to say, this is another game that's a toss-up, and realistically, I could see Viktoria Plzen getting a home win. But since Freiburg are the better team and they definitely have a better squad, in my opinion, I'm going to predict that Freiburg will win this game 1-0. Moving on to the next game, we have Bologna against Salzburg. Man, Salzburg are another team that have not been performing so far in this Europa League. And after their first 4 matches, they have only gotten 1 win, and the other 3 games have all been losses. But Bologna haven't been much better, as they've only gotten 1 win as well. Now, I do think Vincenzo Italiano is a good manager, especially in these Europa League and Conference League competitions. We saw what he was able to do with Fiorentina, and I do think with Bologna, they should win this game. Bologna have gotten some pretty good results in recent games, especially their 2-0 win against Napoli, which shows you how much better they are at home than they are away. So with that being said, having the home advantage, I'm going to predict Bologna to win this game 3-0. The next game we got is Red Star Belgrade against FCSB. Honestly, I don't know what to predict with FCSB because I feel like they started off this Europa League strong as they got that 1-0 win over Go Ahead Eagles. But since then, I keep predicting them to win and they keep losing every single game. Honestly, I can only see a draw coming out of this game, so I'm going to predict a 1-1 result. The next game we got is Genk against Basel. This is definitely a tough one to predict because I feel like both of these teams have been better than expected so far, and they've both gotten good wins where a lot of people would have predicted them to lose, but at the same time, they don't have an insane squad that's going to take them deep into the knockout stages. I think Basel got a great 3-1 win in the last match day against FCSB, but Genk ended up beating Braga 4-3, which was very, very impressive because Braga looked to be one of the most informed teams in this Europa League, and Genk were the team to stop their run. With that being said, having the home advantage, I'm going to predict Genk to win this game 2-1. Moving on to the next game, we have Go Ahead Eagles against Stuttgart. I feel like Stuttgart have been very, very hit or miss so far in this Europa League because I think they're definitely a top 10 team. But one week they play amazing and they get the win. The next week they end up losing. And that's why so far in their first 4 matches, they've gotten 2 wins and 2 losses. I think this will definitely be a high scoring game, but I'm going to back Stuttgart to get the 3-2 victory. The next game we got is Maccabi Tel Aviv against Lyon. Honestly, Lyon recently have been very, very poor. They have not been playing good in recent games. And if you look at them in their last 5 matches, they haven't gotten a single win, which is pretty embarrassing to be honest. But you look at Maccabi Tel Aviv and they don't really have much going for them. They've been very poor in this Europa League and they don't even have the home advantage in any of their games. I'm going to say that Lille win this game 2-1. Moving on to the next game, we have Nottingham Forest against Malmo. I've said it multiple times in recent videos that Malmo have been very disappointing in this Europa League, and in their first 4 matches, they've only gotten 1 draw and 3 losses, which is pretty shit. And even domestically, Malmo have not been performing that good. They don't look very strong. They're not scoring a lot of goals. And for that reason, I think they're probably going to lose this game. We saw Nottingham Forest get a fantastic 3-0 win against Liverpool in the last match day in the Premier League. And now that they have a new manager and Ange Postecoglou is no longer there, I definitely think they're going to have that new manager bounce. And I think they're definitely going to start performing better. I'm going to predict Nottingham Forest to win this game 3-0. Moving on to the next game, we have Panathinaikos against Sturm Graz. I think this is a pretty easy game to predict. Panathinaikos have the home advantage. If you look at them in their last 5 matches, they've won 4 out of 5 games. And on the other hand, Sturm Graz are winless in their last 5 matches. So this only leaves me one way to predict. I'm going to say that Panathinaikos win this game 2-0. The next game we got is Rangers against Braga. Don't get me started on Rangers, man. Now, yes, I will say that Rangers have won their last 2 games in a row, which is pretty impressive for them so far this season because they've looked pretty shit in majority of the games they play. But Braga have been one of the best teams in this Europa League so far. Now, yes, they did lose that last game 3-4 against Genk. But other than that, they've been winning majority of the games. They look very, very strong in the attack. They're scoring loads and loads of goals. We've seen them score 5, 4, 3 goals in recent matches. So for that reason, I think Braga are pretty comfortably going to win this game 3-1. And finally, the last game we have is Real Betis against FC Utrecht. I wouldn't say that Real Betis have been as convincing as I would have originally thought they were going to be, as currently from their first 4 matches, they've only gotten 2 wins and 2 draws as well. But FC Utrecht have been very, very poor. In the Eredivisie, they had a great season last year to get them into the Europa League, but this season, they just don't look that good in the Eredivisie and in the Europa League, where they still haven't gotten a win yet. With that being said, I'm going to back Real Betis in this game, and I'm going to predict them to win this game 2-0. And that's the end of this video. Those were my Europa League predictions for the 5th match day in the league phase. And obviously, if you're enjoying all the uploads on the channel, remember to subscribe down below. And if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.